Welcome to the XY Advisor podcast. To join a global community of financial advisors sharing and learning with one another to drive the positive evolution of financial advice, head to xyadvisor.com.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the XY podcast. Today you are hanging out with Emily, not Clayton, and I am joined by my guest from the West, Western Australia that is, with Brad Ellison. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. I think it's a great community. So any way I can help other members of the community, I'm very happy to. Thanks very much.
Oh, of course. We've sort of connected and had gone backwards and forwards in conversation, both on XY and through email as well. And given the sort of environment that we find ourselves in, I was very excited to invite you onto the show to have a bit of a conversation sort of around remote tools, because that's what triggered our kind of initial conversation. And we absolutely sort of went backwards and forwards, and I thought there was some great value to unpack and share with the rest of the community. So I was, really excited to get you on. Now, I just want to start off with asking, whereabouts are you tuning in from? And the reason I ask is because, there's probably 98% of people who normally work in an office potentially working from home at the moment. So everyone's world's definitely had to pivot and adapt. So are you at home at the moment? Are you in the office? What does it look like for you?
Yeah, sure. I am at home at the moment. All of our team are at home at the moment as well. So we closed our office. I think this is our 4th week now, actually, that we've been closed for, under sort of taking steps to self-isolate and, to manage this pandemic and all of that sort of thing that we're challenged with right now. So we've been office-based since our business started in 2001. This is the first time, I guess, we've actually closed and worked remotely, but we've always been structured in a way that we always had the ability to work remotely, and as we chose through using our technology. So we're sort of quite fortunate in that the tools we're using at the moment, we're not using purely because now we are home-based or working remotely. It's things we've used even in an office environment because they're really great tools to run an advice business with. So so it's quite simple for us to make that transition to working from home. Funnily enough, to the point now where we're actually looking at doing it as our permanent solution for how we operate our company. So we're actually taking this as an opportunity to really have a look at whether or not we actually need office space in the future, because it's a significant expense for most businesses. So we're looking at actually adapting and utilising sort of a bit of a hybrid of remote work and either sort of a serviced office space or serviced boardroom or something like that for some of that face-to-face interaction and for meetings we may need to have in person, once we're beyond this sort of pandemic stage, I suppose.
Absolutely. Now, did that sort of thought process, was that brought on off the back of this pandemic, or had you kind of been considering moving to remote work, or how did that sort of unfold?
Look, the reason we're looking at doing this sort of indefinitely now is because we had been thinking about it for a while now. So as the current lease of where we were based was starting to come to an end, we really thought long and hard about, what is it that we actually value about office space, and what do we get for the return and the cost that we have to invest in it. And because we've been set up for so long now to work remotely, and we have great tools and a great team, it was something we were talking about for quite a while. And we thought, well, look, if we're going to be working from home for between 1 and 6 months, and we weren't really sure at the outset, and hopefully won't be as long as 6 months. But at the outset, we thought, well, this is really a good litmus test for us to actually see how this would actually work out for us. And we thought that with our team and our culture and our tools and the way that we've been using them for a while now, we believe we will be able to do it. And the past month has actually proven that we genuinely can. And that clients, for the most part, other than if we jumped on a video with them and they know that I'm at home, they wouldn't actually know that anything's changed. In terms of how we're servicing them, they would just assume we're still in an office right now. So, so that really was the culmination of a lot of that sort of thinking. And we actually had, unfortunately, like you guys have had in Sydney across the eastern states, we had a storm front come through in February in Perth, and we ended up with about 20 or 30% of our office flooded. The ceiling collapsed. And so it was very much one of those unplanned events where we almost had a bit of a litmus test before we knew how serious the coronavirus was going to be, where we had to kind of instantly, pivot and start working remotely while we were getting that repaired and replaced and so on. And we sort of took that as an example as to why having the technology and the tools we use is so invaluable, because we never missed a beat. Clients didn't even know it had happened to our office until we put photos on Facebook. So it just meant that we could do that. And we thought, geez, you know what? We can deliver this anywhere. And the engagement, in fact, probably has gone up with a lot of our clients in the last 4 weeks. So we sort of had a bit of the litmus test, unfortunately, with the flood in February. And then with the closure about a month ago, we've now made the decision that this is actually probably our long-term strategy. So that's very exciting.
Wow, it sounds almost like a blessing in disguise. You guys were a few steps ahead of the game, ahead of everyone else. I remember you sending me that email actually to say that you've had to pivot and go to remote work for a few days with the storm. And then I thought about it and I went, wow, well, yeah, they were already set up and ready to go. And us, we've got video on at the moment. I'm looking at you, and if you hadn't have told me that you were at home, I would have thought you were in your office. That's kind of why I wanted to.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Because I was looking at, and I'm like, okay, there's a 50% chance that you're in your office or you're at home. And I was wrong. So there you go. I would not have even known the difference.
That's why I put a nice photo behind me.
I know. And yet for me, you're looking at behind me at my couch and my window. So, remote life, right? Remote life. That's fantastic.
Yeah, but look, that was probably one of those learnings for us as well, is that I wanted to sort of convey to people through this podcast that this technology isn't only valuable because you're working remotely. Now, a lot of people may be working remotely at the moment, but intending to go back to an office or whatever their sort of normal work life looks like, and to really encourage them to keep using these tools that we're going to talk about, because it is so valuable, irrespective of where you're working. But our passion really is around trying to sort of help businesses be successful as well. And one of the things, particularly with my background, that concerned me, and the reason that we've been cloud-based for it'll be over 10 years now and have been using these tools for so long as well, is that, I've got a real passion about it. And I believe that if your business has to operate from a specific location or has to operate with specific hardware, whether it's a laptop or a server or a physical hard drive plugged in somewhere, then you've got really substantial business risk in terms of things like a flood or a coronavirus. But also you don't have the ability to control what you do and how you deliver services to your clients. So, we made that change many, many years ago, and it just means that with unplanned change like we're faced with at the moment, it was really quite simple for us to just continue business as usual.
Yeah, that is fantastic. So I am definitely keen to explore, the tools and processes that you and your team have implemented or are using at the moment. But just before I get there, just a couple of quick questions just to sort of better understand your setup. So how many are in your team?
So we've got 8 staff in our team. That's a mix of advisors. We've got an accountant, and bookkeeper. Two bookkeepers and support staff. So all of us are based in Perth, but we're all working from home at the moment. So we've got 8 in our team, and we use an external paraplanner who's based in Queensland.
Ah, fantastic! And you've been in the advice industry for how many years? How long?
Just over 10 years now I've been advising. So I come from a finance and project management background, and my business partners are both accountants as well. So been advising for 10 years, but in and around finance and project work and that sort of thing for much longer than that. Yeah.
That's awesome. And we were chatting just offline before we jumped on to the podcast here around how you came to be in advice. So I would love it for you to share a little more or expand on what we were chatting about earlier into how you moved from project management into advice, because I thought that was a great story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. I left uni doing a Bachelor of Business and did finance and management in that. Went into work in the corporate world. So I've worked in banking and I've worked in mining, which it seems like almost everyone in Perth has a stint in mining at some point. So I was doing that in project management. A lot of project management is around efficiency and automation and sort of maximising your outcomes for as little cost as possible and those sorts of things. So I've always been really passionate and interested in efficiency, operational efficiency, and a lot of that comes with technology, though that really should be what underlines most of that. So that was sort of my background, but I certainly was getting to a point where I was getting less dissatisfied, I suppose, with, working for big corporates, doing long hours, and really the only ever focus is maximising shareholder return. I just felt like there was sort of something missing in that space for me. So I wanted to sort of help people. And a couple of years before starting advising and working on this business, my business partner was in a very similar situation. He happened to actually be he's a very good friend of mine. We've been friends for many, many years. He actually happened to be working for a mining company in the same building I was working for a mining company in, and we would sort of share these stories and say, yeah, we really should look at doing something better with our skill set and actually really sort of giving back and helping people. So that's sort of what turned us towards moving into the advice space to try and help people with some of our skill sets. And we help small businesses because of our backgrounds. We help individuals, families, all age ranges and that sort of stuff. But what sort of really struck me was when I entered the advice industry. So I'm 43 now, so I entered it when I was 32. I didn't actually have an appreciation for what a lot of the general public or the media thought of financial planning. I'd always had a pretty good experience with it. I came in with open eyes, very energised about it. Didn't really realise there was sort of a negative, view of advisors and what they did. I also sort of struggled with trying to do what I'd always done professionally in the advice space around things like, only getting paid if there was a product at the end of it, or working for months without getting paid when you've actually delivered huge amounts of value. So we sort of came in thinking, wow, is that how you get paid in financial services? This is crazy. So we, so from day dot, we operated as a flat fee advice practice, and we openly tell clients, you will pay us a fee whether we end up recommending a product or not, because it's about certainty. It's about achieving your goals. It's about, short-term and long-term planning. It's about having us as your partner and your mentor and your coach to get to where you want to be. It's not about necessarily having to provide a product, albeit that often that's what, it helps people get to what they're trying to achieve. So that was sort of our entrance to the profession, and also why I suppose as someone that's reasonably new, having done this for 10 years and coming at it from sort of, very fresh eyes, I suppose, is it's really exciting to see some of the more recent changes, this XY community, the way the profession's moving in terms of, value-based advice and so on. It is where we've thought it's had to be for 10 years. So it's really good.
That's awesome. And I love, from what I'm hearing from that, is you've really stepped into it with from a different viewpoint, I suppose, or a different perspective, and sort of gone, hang on a minute, what do you mean this is how it's always been done? Why are we not doing it, this particular way, or adapting and pivoting in there? So, which I think is awesome. That breeds new ideas and innovation, right? Instead of having that same filter of like, no, well, this is how I got told to do it. This is how we do it. It's like, no, there has to be, there's always more than one way to tackle something. I watched a fantastic TED Talk, I think it was recently, which was talking about perspective. And it was actually a guy, he was fantastic. He's a speaker and a magician, and he uses a lot of analogies to really amplify that. And he spoke about perspective, and when you are stuck in that one sort of narrow view, you have this bias where you like almost mentally can't look at it from any other direction. So bringing someone else in who has not got the same bias as you, who's potentially not even in the same industry, to look at the same problem or look at the same situation and question that, or provide their ideas or feedback without having that filter or that bias, can be really powerful. So the fact that you stepped in with none of that, I think has been a great driver in setting the business up for the way that it operates today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sure. Yeah, and certainly has driven to how we operate with the technology and procedures we use, as well as we sort of learn from past experiences, and also aren't fearful of change and building something new. So it's been exciting.
Oh, love it. So when it comes to tools, whether they be for remote work or for advice delivery in terms of driving efficiency, we have sort of looked at a 3-step framework. So we've got the work from home digital tour about to kick off, which is really exciting. And we have sort of boiled it down to a 3-step framework around communications, operations, and acquisitions. And we think those 3 things really sort of bundled together allow an advisor and their team to be set up for success, especially in the new worlds of delivering advice, or at least through this strange lockdown period. So
yeah,
if I think about communications, what do you use, or what are you using at the moment for internal communications between your team?
Yeah, sure. So it's probably worth mentioning at the outset as well that our back end, so by that I mean what we use for email and calendar and document storage and things like that, we use G Suite, Google Suite, which is their sort of enterprise edition or version of Gmail. Now, not recommending that people necessarily have to use that. Microsoft 365, which was recently renamed to that, I think it was Office 365 previously, does that similarly as well. So a lot of those sorts of tools come to us through the G Suite that we use, but it's certainly accessible and available through Microsoft 365 as well. So we operate with those tools. I also talked about our team previously, our 8 team members. It's also worth mentioning that the age range of our team members is actually between 20 and 71 years old. So a lot of these tools aren't just for the Gen X or the Gen Y or millennials, or because we're interested in technology or anything like that. Really, anyone can use them. And often it's the fear of the unknown and the fear of learning something or even trying something is far worse than the actual thing itself. So, if I can urge people to just give it a go, I strongly recommend that. So with G Suite and like Microsoft 365, we use that for our email, our calendar, video conferencing, chat, instant messaging, to-do lists, document storage, document management, all of those sorts of things. So we leverage that with our communications. So with our team, we communicate largely, now that we're doing remote work, through video and chat. It's really important to us, and we did a lot of research around this as well, but most people know this as well, is that communication, we think it's critical that communication is done via video as much as possible. We all know that sort of 7% of communication is verbal and 93% non-verbal. So you have to be able to see who you're talking to. It's just so important. So we're really leveraging that. We'd always used video when we were office-based as well. Obviously now this is the only way we communicate. So we use Google Meet for the video component of that, which is very similar to how Microsoft Teams would operate. So we use that a lot. In terms of how we actually implement that, we have a daily meeting with all of our team for 30 minutes every morning, and it's on video, and it's sort of mandatory, I suppose, in terms of everyone participates and jumps online. And in that meeting, we really cover off on things like just general information, general news we might need to be aware of. That might be financial markets news or oil price going into negative territory the other day, whatever it might be. We talk about compliance, we talk about operations. We then have a look at tasks or things that are pending and due that day or coming up, and our workloads. And recently as well, we've been talking about tips and tracks of sort of remote work, how people are sort of organising their day, how they're using technology and so on too. So we get on video at least daily with all of our team. Beyond that, we use Google Chat, which is just their sort of real-time chat messaging solution. Prior to that, we used a tool called Slack, which probably many people have now heard of, but Google released their own version, Chat, I think it was about a year ago, maybe just over. And again, similarly, Microsoft Teams offers a similar thing as well. So we've been using that for quite a while, and one of the things that we found was really useful with that was the internal reliance on email dropped probably 80 or 90%. We just don't really have to use email internally any longer. It centralizes all of our conversations to one place. You can link documents, images, videos, websites, and it's all in the same place. We spent a bit of time and effort sorting out how we manage that. So we've got channels set up, which is kind of like a concept of folders where you can put related content. So pretty much all of our internal communication is now done via video and or chat. So video on a daily basis and chat sort of in between times on an ad hoc basis. And that's worked extremely successfully for us. And the other thing we're doing at the moment is every fortnight we do sort of an all team member meeting where we have sort of a high level update from the directors about the business. And then we close with sort of a virtual happy hour or drink session or what have you. So, it's really important for us to keep that cultural feel while we're not actually face to face with each other. So even though we're not going to potentially go back to an office space, once we're able to actually, get away from self-isolation, we'll do more things face-to-face. So, some of those meetings might be replaced with going, for a coffee or something like that as a meeting somewhere, or a service boardroom or something like that. But it's been working extremely well so far.
That's fantastic. And I really hope, when we come out the other side of this pandemic, that people will really appreciate the time that you are able to connect and get together face to face, because it's definitely, it's the same for us at XY. We historically pre-COVID had a weekly meeting every Tuesday where we'd get together face to face in the office. And that would sort of go for about an hour or an hour and a half, depending. And that was just a really good opportunity to go through everything on the agenda, but also just have a bit of banter and a bit of an opportunity to catch up. And because we are very much remote. We're sprawled across Sydney. We've got Gwen in Cebu in the Philippines. So we sort of have a global team. So we physically can't all be together at once. So at least being able to bring some of us together on occasion is really good. But a tool that's been phenomenal for us, and I know we've mentioned it on occasion, Clayton certainly has, and I can't remember if I mentioned it to you in email, is Marco Polo.
Yes, you did, yeah.
Absolute game changer. I cannot speak highly enough about this app. We've got the entire XY team on it, and I've also got my entire family on it. And I actually managed to have a conversation with my grandfather yesterday, because he was with my mum, who he's very not tech savvy at all. But I was able to see him and he could see me through video messaging, and it's just very off the cuff. It saves you a heck of a lot of time instead of typing out a message, and it's really as if text messages and, say, Snapchat or, something like that had a baby. Like, that's how I kind of describe it to people. And it's this way for you to just get in front of your camera, shoot a quick message. I could record myself and say, "Hey, Brad, how's it going?" And check in, and then sort of stop that, and then we'll have a running tally of our video chats underneath. And it's on demand. So when you've got a work team, phenomenal. You can have different group chats, or you can have one-on-one conversations and drop a question or, update everybody. So especially given this time that we're all forced into physical isolation, I know for us as a core team, being able to keep everyone up to date on what's happening, whether things we're working on individually or as a group or as just a few of us, has been really powerful, just to make sure we're continuing to bring everyone on the journey, and keep that high level of communication. Because I know when you take away those physical interactions, or being able to just lean over and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" You can really have some barriers there with ongoing and good communication. So yes, I highly recommend checking that one out if you want to add it to the toolbox.
Excellent. No, that sounds fantastic. And you did mention it to me. It looks really, really good. And I think you also hit on something that we've started using Loom for, to record our desktops and things like that, is the time saving and the efficiency. So when we're doing internal training, or if I'm making a change to one of our document templates, for example, we used to then have to sort of, type it up in an email and hope someone can follow it and understand it and so on. Now we just record it and say, "Have a look here, this is what's changed," and we just share the link to the video. And we now use that with our clients as well. So if we're helping them set up budgeting software, or walking them through a document we've sent them or something like that, what could take you half an hour to write is actually a 2-minute video. So that's actually been fantastic for us. So yeah, you're absolutely right. The efficiency is amazing.
Oh, absolutely. And it just gives that whole extra layer of personality that you couldn't necessarily get across into an email to a team member or a client. And yeah, in terms of saving time, oh my God, I love it. I'd be very interested to know how many Looms and Bonjoro is another one. Massive fan of Bonjoro in sending out individual and personalized videos to clients. I've used that a lot. So yeah, I wonder how many videos I've actually racked up over the last couple of years, because I am a big video advocate. Anyone who knows me, if you're in XY, there's a good chance you've probably received a video from me, and that's why, because it just, especially, you can bring so much energy to a conversation as opposed to just typing an email, and so I love it. So yes, if anyone
and that comes back to most of Yeah. Well, yeah, and most of the language comes from body language, doesn't it? Most of the communication. It's so important. Yep.
Absolutely. Oh, that's really good. Now, in terms of external communication to clients, is there anything sort of above and beyond what you're already using, or any sort of channels or things that you're doing there that you've found to be really beneficial?
Look, really the only change for us to working remote is using video for our client meetings as opposed to what we would typically do face-to-face. So we use video extensively for that currently. We were already doing it a fair bit. If we had workers that were based, clients that were based over east, overseas, we have some workers that are FIFO, so we would often use it with them as well. So that's always worked fairly well. It's just that now it's the norm, and I find even clients are adapting to it really well too. You know, the fear of the unknown and the fear of being on camera and all that sort of stuff, it really goes away quite quickly, actually. And so that's something that now we just do each and every time we speak to a client, and we'll probably continue doing that into the future. I think what was interesting for us, though, is actually last year we started, at the end of our discovery meetings with our clients that were face-to-face in our office, we actually started asking the clients, how do you want to engage with us and be kept up to date beyond this point? You know, typically they come back for a strategy session and then an SWA presentation or an annual review or whatever it might be. And like with us as employees, there's time spent in traffic. There's time dealing with, you know, what do I do with the kids and how do I pay for parking and how do I take time off work and all of those sorts of things. And we started getting the feedback more and more that once they'd met us and built some sort of a relationship with us, which we're achieving through video as well. I think, again, it's that being able to see the person and you start trusting the person and that sort of thing. They were then saying, no, I don't need to come out here again. In fact, please don't make me come out here again. I'd much rather jump on a video, jump on a phone call, sign a document electronically, because now I know you and I trust you, and yep, let's just get this done, sort of thing. So it wouldn't actually surprise me if off the back of this, it's not so much whether financial advisors or anyone even outside of our profession choose to keep operating this way or not. I think we might actually find that there's a fairly large portion of our client base that will actually prefer to do it this way in the future. So we need to be ready for that, you know, even if we do return to an office space. So it's really been extremely good. And if it saves the client's time as it does ourselves, they may want to continue doing that. So that's something that we'd found. Beyond just video, though, something that we've been doing for a while as well, using technology for our client engagement, is we use Typeform, which is like an online form fill solution. We also have access to Google Forms as part of our suite, but Typeform we find is a bit more user interactive and a bit nicer to use. So we would get clients to fill out a brief form on there to kind of give us the key fact-find information we needed before having a conversation. So we would use that prior to having our meeting, whether it's video or otherwise, to get that information. And we find that's really good. It's much quicker than filling it out by hand. Clients can do it at their leisure, which is great. And then in terms of actually running the meetings, we use Calendly as our booking solution to do that for our meetings. So, you know, the only thing that's changed really for us recently is the fact that we're doing all of our meetings via video. The technology we use, we've been using for a long time, and Calendly's fantastic. We've got SMS reminders and email reminders for upcoming appointments. You can do a link to your website or to a video, which we do, for example, where they see our YouTube channel about what to expect at your first meeting or what to expect in your insurance review and things like that. They get those videos just through the process of booking the meeting in Calendly. It allows us to manage our time effectively by having a buffer before and after meetings. So we know we've got a window for things like file noting or preparing for the meeting beforehand. We can't get overbooked or double booked. So that's really been invaluable as well. So at the moment, we've sort of got three tools we use for client meetings, both between capturing the data on Typeform, booking the meeting with Calendly, and performing the meeting with Google Meet. And they all work exceptionally well. And probably one of the reasons why clients didn't even realise that our office had flooded and we were all working remotely. They just wouldn't have known. So that was fantastic.
And how much of that process is automated? Is it you've integrated everything? So when a staff team member sends out the email or triggers the email for them to book in the calendar, how much of that is automated versus manual?
So at the moment, the booking side of things, so with Calendly, with the links for videos and going into video meetings and so on, that's highly automated. Calendly can link to most online diaries. It doesn't have to be Google Calendar, it can be Outlook and so on. So it checks your availability, it books you in the meeting, you can book resources, all of those sorts of things. So that side of things is very, very automated. At the moment, our CRM is sort of a hybrid between Xplan and Salesforce. So we do have a manual gap at the moment, which is probably our biggest obstacle right now, around generating compliance documents and capturing client data. We're working with an integration at the moment between Typeform and Salesforce, where it can actually pull what the clients have entered online straight through into our CRM. So we're actively doing that right now. Yeah, we still think that there's a bit of a disconnect there around financial planning software that has been around for many, many years and sort of is trying to be all things to all people, where it now is quite complex. So yeah, we're sort of in between using Xplan and Salesforce to try and get to that point where we can fully automate the CRM experience as well. But in terms of, bookings, emails, video calls, recording of the videos, note-taking, that sort of stuff, it's fairly well automated now. Data capture is still probably one of those gaps, and document generation as well, actually generating the fact find and generating the SOA or the ROA or the review documents. Those are still a bit manual for us that we're trying to sort of work through at the moment.
Yeah, so for the advisors out there who are wanting to create this sort of automated system with the bookings and everything, if they're still doing everything manually,
can
I get some reassurance from you that it's not overly complicated, that it can be done? How much effort is required to do this? Because I think about the people when we start to dive into tech conversations, and the advisors and the people who go, oh my God, I am so not tech savvy, like how on earth could I ever do that? How hard is it really?
It's really not, and I think that comes back to the fear of the unknown. Just try it. It's quite simple. I think certainly recently, over the past couple of years as well, a lot of these software solutions and online solutions, even the providers of those solutions work remotely, and all the help that's accessible to you is only accessible via their website or their own onboarding experience. So you're not likely to have to ring up someone to try and get tech support or anything like that. They're actually pretty good at sort of taking you through that process. So, Calendly as an example, is if anyone hasn't used it, that was extremely valuable to us in terms of efficiency, because like with most people, what we used to do was ring each other back and forth 5 or 6 times until we landed at the date and the time we could have the meeting, or it was multiple emails. Now we just attach it to our email and the client picks one. It's so simple, but the setup is really simple as well. You create your account. It says, what calendar system do you use? You link your calendar system. It says, do you want to check your diary for appointments to make sure you're available between 9 a.m. and 5:30 or whatever you want to set? And it just does it for you. It's fantastic. Things like notifying you when someone's booked you, it comes through to your inbox as an email, so you'll know when a client's booked your appointment. You can reschedule it through that as well. So actually getting up and running is dead easy. There's no technical knowledge. There's nothing really you need. It will just take you through that process. And the other one, Typeform, I mentioned, is very similar. You can get a free account and you can just capture key data. And the reason we started doing that was, we tried fillable PDFs, but they're still 40 pages long for a fact find. We would find that there's huge sections of the fact find that clients either couldn't answer off the top of their head, or for a very initial conversation probably wasn't that valuable to us as the advisor either. Certainly it will be longer term, but not for the first time we meet necessarily. So we just picked sort of 10 questions in the fact find that we thought were really simple, and we just added them to Typeform. And when you want to share those questions, it just gives you a link, a web URL that you can just paste into an email, and you email it to a client and just say, look, before we meet, I'd love to know, the answers to the following things. Please click on this link and let me know. And much like Calendly, when a client fills it out, it emails you the result. So it's really, really easy. Software these days, it's not technical anymore. It's very intuitive, and particularly around the onboarding, between visiting a website like Calendly and actually being up and running really doesn't take long at all, and it walks you through that whole process. So just don't be fearful of giving it a try. Most of the providers that are very good in those spaces are good for a reason, and it's because the experience is great. Yeah.
Now let's talk project management. So back office, client journey, making sure no tasks are missed or unaccounted for. What are you guys doing in the back office space to move clients through the journey and track where everyone is up to?
Right. So quite simply, everything is 100% process driven. So we use processes inside of Salesforce, and that's our workflow. So almost anything we do in our office is driven by a process. And we've gone from having, as much as sort of 20 processes back down to 3. And I think currently we sit at about 6 or 7 for sort of key deliverables. So we've sort of broken it up into, the onboarding experience and the discovery and initial meeting, then the advice delivery. There's a separate process for reviews and so on. So there's very, very little we do in terms of client work, client experience, and tasks and work that we're working on that isn't a known procedure. So we're red hot on that. All our team have to follow procedures. If there's something that comes up that's a bit ad hoc and it's not a procedure we can kick off to commence, like doing an annual review, for example, then it has to be tasked, which is through Salesforce as well, but much like you can do through Xplan and Midwinter and all of those sorts of things. So at any point in time, it's really important to us to know exactly who's working on what and where are we at in that process. So 100% process driven, and at the moment those workflows are in Salesforce.
Yeah, that's great. And did it take a lot to get all of that set up? Was it quite I know that it can be as simple or as robust as you want it to be, and obviously the more time and energy you put into getting something set up from the get-go, the more valuable and the usability will be a lot easier. So was it quite cumbersome to set up, or was it sort of easy enough to do?
It was easy, but it was time consuming, I think is probably the best way to put it. It was easy because we had all been doing it for so long that we knew what we had to do and when we did it and that sort of thing. But putting it down on paper initially to actually plan that out, it was just time consuming. And we just did it over a series of team meetings in our boardroom over a couple of weeks. And, it started with the onboarding and discovery and went right through to annual reviews. We already had the document template, so we knew what tools we used. We knew when we did certain tasks. We just had to write them all down. And we literally just wrote them in a spreadsheet, actually, and then copy and pasted those into the procedures in Salesforce. So, so that's how we started. So a bit time consuming initially up front. What we've subsequently done, and this is where it was a bit more technical and where we did actually get some support to do that, is to actually try and automate some of those workflows. So really easy to actually write them down, really easy to actually create in Xplan or Salesforce. But what we wanted to do is things like, when we provide our strategy document to a client, we wanted to automatically kick off other processes based on what advice or what strategies we had just presented to the client. That's actually fairly simple, but again, the first couple of times you do it, we had to Google it and research it and things like that. But once you did it a couple of times, it was quite simple. So so it's quite easy to create the processes and to document them and to embed them. But then to actually automate those was sort of another piece to that, but really, really valuable. So we've got a client that if we deliver a strategy, it says we're going to help them with budgeting, we're going to roll over their super to a cheaper provider, for example, and put insurance in place. When we tick a box that says, yes, we've completed the discovery process, tick off the following activities, it then creates 3 new processes. So, our risk specialist can start on the insurance and someone else can start on budgeting, and we can start contacting the super fund for rollovers. And it's all very clear to us what we're doing for our clients. Yeah.
Now, I'm really glad you just said budgeting there, because cash flow is a hugely popular topic within XY. Are you using any budgeting software, or has that been a part of your offering since day one? Or I'd love to just hear more about how that's evolved and what you're using.
Yeah, it's certainly part of our offering since day one. At the start of it was a spreadsheet that we would work on. Since then, we've kind of used everything that's available in the market. So I guess our experience, not unlike most advisors, is clients come to us regularly and they say, we earn a combined income of $100,000 and we think we spend about $60,000. We say, oh, fantastic, you're saving $40,000 a year. And they sort of look at you blankly and say, no, we're not. So obviously our challenge is, where did that money go? And we also see quite often where people are spending more than they actually earn, and that's credit card debt and things like that as well. So, so we're actually very, very focused on that side of things. And, even when I entered financial planning profession, I thought I'd be spending most of my time doing really complex tax structures and complex advice and things like that. But really, most people just need help managing money, and that's what we end up spending a lot of our time on. So we do that as a service, and we really make that a core focus of what we deliver. Currently, we use Money Brilliant to deliver that. We have used all sorts of other providers. We've used Prospera. We've used, if you name a budgeting software or app, we have trialed it. One of the things we've found, though, is that clients get really excited about it initially, and then we find that their use and uptake of it, maintaining using it, just falls off a cliff at some point. So they like linking the accounts and setting up their budget goals and all of that sort of stuff. But then at some point, life just gets busy again, and we're finding we're getting to the annual review stages, and they weren't really actively using it as much as we'd hoped, and that sort of thing. So we certainly use it, but more so once that they've linked all of their accounts, we then kind of take over having those conversations around how they're managing the money, whether they've got a surplus, and if they've got the surplus, what should they be doing with that. So we found that sort of the sweet spot for us to get the data in a cost-effective way, and where the app was intuitive and our clients used it, is Money Brilliant currently. So we just find the app's really, really good. The clients can use it, they understand it. The onboarding and setup simple. We can still extract all of the data we need from it for fact finding and reviews and so on. So so that's what we're currently using.
Fantastic. Yeah, you really become the guide, right, or the coach. Like, that's part of the piece, that the reason why they're coming to an advisor is for to have that accountability, for someone who can be like, hey, why are you doing that? Or didn't we suggest we were going to do this? And sort of be there to do the hand holding and the guiding so that they are heading in the right direction. So Definitely. That makes total sense.
Definitely.
I would love to, I guess, round out with acquisitions. So we've covered communications and we've certainly dived into operations somewhat. But in terms of acquisitions, so has anything changed, or how, given that we've all pivoted to fully remote work, or what are you guys, are you actively looking for new clients? What does that sort of look like at the moment?
Yeah, we're always looking for new clients, certainly. I think acquisitions is probably something that is a bit of a challenge for us at the moment, in that we've got quite a large existing client base and we've been operating for 19 years now. So at the moment, most new clients that come to us via client referrals or some of our referral partners. So it hasn't really been a big focus of us, and certainly it's something that's been lacking in our business. Is we have much more opportunity than we've really leveraged by working with our existing client base and referral partners. So we get referrals, but we don't actually ask for them. That's something that would be quite simple for us to embed in our process, but we don't typically do that. Even with our referral partners, we get great referrals, but we could have a much stronger relationship with those referral partners. So strategically, we're looking at doing a couple of things. One is working with more referral partners and embedding that relationship more so. And the other thing is that we are very much looking at moving into kind of our next phase. We call it Equitum 2.0. So, what does our past business doesn't necessarily look like our future business. So what is that going to look like? And we're very much advocates of sort of this concept around sort of a subscription-based type financial planning advice type solution. Now, we've still got some clients that have, really complex needs that will still probably engage with us the way that we have been doing it. But I think, we really want to focus on driving the cost to deliver our advice down, which technology has a massive part to play in that. Drive that cost down so it's accessible to more people, but then how can we deliver it to more people at the same time? So we're actually currently leveraging, I guess, some of our working from home time at the moment to actually build some of that out right now. So we're getting more active in the social media spaces. We just started a campaign which was really great engagement so far, that we called How We Work. So we thought, we're not the only business that's going through this. What can we share with our own client base and whoever else that we're linked to about how to achieve what we've been able to achieve? So we've launched a How We Work series on social media. I think, moving forward, though, it's certainly going to be around some sort of acquisition through social media, through networking, through professional peers, and at a price where it's subscription-based, where you're delivering value, you're not delivering product. and trying to arrive at that sweet spot between being profitable but well priced for clients. So we're very active in that space at the moment, but haven't quite resolved all of it yet.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to ask you, because I remember you mentioning you were kicking off the campaign. It was how we work remote is what it was, how remote work is working for us, or something like that.
Yes, exactly right. Yes.
So what did that campaign look like? Was that blogs, videos? What were you putting out onto social media?
So what we've mapped out, we've only just started it, so we've only done the first 2 posts. So initially it was saying, I guess, look, we're all in this together, and if what we have done and what we know can help you, we'd love to share it. So that was done through social media and LinkedIn as well. And that was really just talking about some of the tools that we use and why we're using them, and what some of the alternatives are, even most of what we talked about today. That they're certainly not the only solutions in those spaces that you can look at. So we just wanted to share that, because you don't know what you don't know. And I think there are a lot of business owners at the moment that may never have heard of Calendly, or didn't even realise you could do an online form fill, or whatever it might be. So we wanted to share that sort of stuff with people. And the engagement and the sharing and stuff like that has been really fantastic. We've certainly noticed that the click rate and the visibility is higher than, I guess, the more boring, if I can use that term, financial type updates that we put out on social media. So that's been really, really good. The next phase is actually going to be video based. So where we've said things like, we use Calendly to book meetings, we're actually going to record kind of a how-to video. For Zoom, we're going to record a how-to video. We think that when we get into sort of that level of detail, it's worth actually showing someone how to do it, not just talking about the fact that it's possible, and that might remove some of the fear of people trying to do it as well. So the next wave will be some personal videos that we will do about the tools that we use, which is really interesting. And beyond that, we really are focusing more on video engagement. Last year, we started doing video updates to our client base, or one-on-one with our clients, and we've now stopped doing newsletters because we were getting sort of a click rate of somewhere around 10% on newsletters, and it's sort of over 60% when you deliver it via a video. So that's really been fantastic for us. So we're going to be doing more and more of that sort of work in that space. But I think, moving forward, we would often have a client referred to us, and they'd go to our website just to kind of reaffirm who we are and what we do. We're kind of trying to flip that on its head to say, well, actually, come and find us, because we, like most financial planners, are actually very good at what they do. And we need to tell people that. So, come and find us. And we want to help more people, not fewer people. And certainly there are challenges around that as compliance costs are going up and so on. But, we think there's absolutely a solution in there that we can deliver really high quality advice through technology remotely, and to be able to market and acquire clients through what we do.
Absolutely. And the ability of being able to post through social is the opportunity to build relationships and trust with people, prospects, potential clients, before you even had a conversation with them, which that's what I absolutely love. And because especially with the younger generation, they will I know that Craig, my partner, and I, we do it with everything. We will Google stuff. If we're interested, or we're someone suggests something, I don't pick up the phone and call the business. I look them up online every time. That is the first point of call. So if people are going to be doing that, whether they're broadly looking for financial advice or financial advisor in Perth, or if they're specifically looking for Brad or Equiton, they're heading online. So give them something where when they're going to show up, they're going to get a real good sense of what you're about, what you do, how you can add value to them, and just add some personality to it. That is hugely, hugely important. So I think that's fantastic. And I am really keen to follow along with all the content and everything you push out, and check in at a later date and see how the remote work campaign's going, and
fantastic.
Keep up with the traction, because that sounds super, super exciting. And just on that as well, I heard a fantastic quote just recently, and it just made me think of it when you talked about, instead of just posting and telling people, hey, here's Zoom, or hey, here's Calendly, you can use Calendly. This quote was, the acquisition of knowledge brings about satisfaction. So, when you read a self-development book, or you see a post or something, and it's the knowledge, and it's teaching you hey, you can do this, that brings about satisfaction, because you realize that, okay, so that's how that's done. But it's only through the application of knowledge that brings about fulfillment. So basically, in a shorter sense, it's the practicing of it and actually physically doing it. So if I was someone who landed on your page and I've just been introduced to the world of Calendly that you've told me about, but you haven't just told me about Calendly, you've actually shown me how to use it, and it's something that I could follow along and do it there and then on my screen, is 10 times more powerful. So in that, 2-minute video or whatever it is, you've given me the tools to be able to practice, which is going to then bring about the fulfillment of like, oh my God, I can actually do it and I'm doing it. So that would be fantastic and add a whole extra layer to it. So yeah, that was a cool nugget.
And we all know knowledge, knowing you can do something is very different to actually taking the steps to do it. Like all great ideas, there's no shortage of ideas, but it's who actually executes those ideas. And sometimes it's just because you need your hand held. So yeah, we very much want to, do that for people for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. And sorry, I was just going to say, taking yourself out, or, it's really easy to get stuck in the mindset of like, oh, Calendly, like it's so easy. Like, we use it every single day. But to remind yourself that you're right, there are people out there who have never heard of it before. So, and it's the same thing with it, explaining different aspects of advice or money management, being able to go really take off the advisor hat or the marketing hat and going, okay, put yourself in someone else's shoes and really go, okay, let's walk them through the process from the beginning and just kind of really take a step back so that you're bringing them on the journey instead of just assuming that they know what you're talking about.
Absolutely, yeah. And look, the other thing, Emma, I was going to mention is in terms of acquisition, it's also important for us as advisors or business owners to be honest with ourselves about, removing ourselves from our own business or our own knowledge, what we need to change. And one of those things that we're looking at doing as well is to say, look, in the past, yes, we've got a website and a social page and so on, but it wasn't designed to drive acquisition. It was just so that we were findable effectively in search. And so we sort of had to say, okay, but if we want to actually acquire new clients and we want to change what it looks like and how we price it and how we deliver it, looking with fresh eyes at our current online presence, does that align to what we know our strategy is? And the answer was absolutely no, it doesn't. So, even redoing our website, we're taking this kind of, self-isolation period to actually look at redoing our website as well. So it's not just the social pages, but it all goes glove in hand, as you were talking about. So, it's one thing to try and drive traffic, but if they then end up on your website but can't get the answer to what they're looking for, you didn't achieve what you were hoping to. So, so you really need to hold yourself accountable to what you're trying to achieve, and have you actually really got the tools and the steps to be able to do that? And if not, you need to make that change. So our website and social pages have been like that for many years. And at some point you need to go, okay, let's redo this. And that's actually quite exciting if you're willing to change and look at the strategies around improving your business for the future.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just like the journey evolves for clients, the plan is an ever evolving, piece, right? The clients, things happen, they have an inheritance or they want to send the kids to private school. Like the financial plan is constantly evolving and changing, and so would be an advice business. So, yes. Instead of having your website stuck from 10 years ago, you've certainly evolved as an advisor in a business. Why not let your website reflect that as well? So 100% agree with that. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as we round out what has been a great conversation, and sorry, what were you going to say just then?
Oh, so I was going to say, be remiss of me as well, because my team also said, please make sure you talk about password management as a tool. If there's one takeaway, and if I said to our team, what's the one tool you could not live without that we're currently using? It's password management. So I just want to make sure I made mention of any businesses that are trying to manage multiple people, multiple passwords, password resets, multiple logins, apps, all of that kind of stuff. Get a password management tool. It's a lifesaver. So we use LastPass for ours. And another one is 1Password, and there's a few of those there. But I think even though we take advantage of a lot of software and tools and so on, that's the one thing we probably couldn't do without. So if you're drowning under passwords, grab something like that for sure.
I'm the same. Even just personally, like I agree. We're the same. We utilize LastPass. It's it's done the job. It does exactly what we need it to do, and especially just keeping that sort of ease and flow between the team. And you can also you can have different settings, right? So you can have different permissions and stuff, which I think is quite useful as well. So you don't actually physically have to, share the password itself with team members. You can just grant them access. So it just kind of allows for that extra sort of layer of security if you need it or want it as well. So it is quite versatile. So yes, I agree. So shout out to the team for bringing that one to life.
Yes, it's been absolutely brilliant. That one, and the fact that we have sort of banned attaching physical documents to emails and correspondence. Yeah. Only use links. The minute you have to download or upload a document, one of them's out of date and you don't know who's done what with it. So yes, please use links. Share documents and attach documents.
Oh my God, that is so true. Well, there's been some fantastic things shared here. And I know that you actually posted in XY sharing all the tools that you use. So I will make sure to sort of recopy that when we post this podcast out. And then anyone can certainly get in touch, I suppose, if they want to ask you any questions. So yes, where can people go to reach out? Where can everyone sort of get in touch should they want to pick your brain for more tech questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they're very happy to contact us through our website and through, I'm sure you'll link my contact details. I'm on LinkedIn. You can email me directly. This is part of, I guess, the community we all want to be part of, is that, you want to help other people and be available to other people and vice versa. So, yeah, very, very happy to hear from people. My direct email address is just brad@equitum.com.au. So you're welcome to contact me directly if you need any help or some tips about what we've talked about, for sure.
Fantastic. I'll make sure that is in the show notes as well. And my final question is, I would love to get your perspective once we get through this really sort of strange and bizarre period of time and we step into what will inevitably be the new world. What would you like that to look like for advice, or where would you like to see this industry head in terms of how we operate, either in the remote sense or just in general? Is there anything that you would love to see evolve for the industry?
Look, I think at a high level for financial services and financial planning as a profession, it'd be fantastic if at the outset of all of this uncertainty is that people have started to realise sort of en masse the value that we can add. I think, usually a lot of the stuff that's in the media and things like that off the back of the Royal Commission and so on that would be more sort of consumer or public facing, it just doesn't really paint us in a good light. But we know the reality is actually nothing like that for the vast majority of everyone in our profession. So I know in our business, we've certainly been seen as even more so a trusted source of information and help during this sort of pandemic, the uncertainty around job security and financial security and the impact on whether or not you should access your super early and all of these sorts of things. There's only one area that they can come to for that sort of help, and it's ours. So I think it'd be great if sort of consumers start to get more and more positive feedback and a sort of a greater view of our profession would be amazing off the back of that as well. I think from internally within our profession, I think that I agree with sort of most of the commentary where we understand some of the reasoning behind some of the changes that have been made in light of LAF changes and Royal Commissions and so on. And we won't get into all of those now, but I think a lot of it is trying to drive an outcome which would be hard to sort of disagree from in terms of, driving us towards a profession. But I just hope that there's a bit more common sense around how that's actually delivered and what's expected of advisors off the back of that. And then beyond that, really moving forward, I think any financial planning practice that's positioned well for the future, and by that I mean either structured with not just tools and process and technology, but a great team and a great culture that are willing to make the necessary changes, that will do the study and all of those sorts of things. I truly think we're going to be in a position where there's going to be fewer advisors and more clients that need the help. So what a great business to be in if that's the future outcome. So I'm excited about making sure we're positioned to take advantage of that moving into the future, because our business, our team has no plans to not continue advising and not to be here for another 30 years. So, this is sort of short-term pain for long-term gain. And I think people can't be fearful of the change. They just need to manage it and be open to it, because often the change, like we've even talked about just with some technology changes, the outcome is actually a magnitude better than what we started out with. So, I think in the right context, all of that change will be good. So I'm excited for the profession moving forward. There's going to be a a bit of pain for us to sort of get through the next couple of years. But even during those years, not only beyond those years, there's a lot of opportunity for practices that are really willing to look at how they're running and revisit their strategy, revisit how they're delivering advice, revisit who their target markets are, all of those sorts of things, because there's so much value we can add and so many people need our help. So that's exciting.
Agreed. Well said. I loved all of that. It was fantastic. Well, look, thank you, Brad, so much for coming on. It's been great to have a chat with you and unpack a few of those things. And anyone who wants to reach out can definitely do so on XY. And here's to lifting the bar and pushing this profession, giving it the recognition it so very much deserves. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Em. I appreciate it.
No worries. Talk soon.